You are listening to the Take a Step podcast, where we help growth-minded men live every day on purpose. My name is Johnston, and today we've got another edition of the Weekly Mile, where we take a look back at one of the previous editions of the Weekly Mile newsletter and dive in. And the title of this week's edition that we'll be covering is Purposeful Suffering versus Meaningless Comfort. So in this episode, we'll really unpack how we've been wired to really embrace the challenge and overcome obstacles, and how that really gives us purpose, especially when it's in line with the man that we feel like God has called us to be. But then on the flip side, there's the comfortable path. There's the path of least resistance, which is always easy to take up front, but it comes at a cost. What is that cost, you might ask? Well, we're about to find out. Let's take a step. When's the last time you experienced something hard? I mean, genuinely hard. The type of moment where you wondered if you could actually withstand the weight of the challenge. Maybe it was a brutal workout, a risky business move, a rocky relationship, or just a tough season of life. We've all been there. Standing in the tension of the struggle, questioning our endurance, asking God why it has to be so hard. Yet if you look closely, there's always purpose stitched into those moments. Difficulty is not wasted when God is involved. Now let me flip the situation. When's the last time you were just coasting? A stress-free day, nothing pulling at you, but still asking yourself, don't I have something better to do? That feeling is not random. It comes from habits of choosing comfort over purpose. A lot of guys live there. They pick what's easy instead of what's meaningful. But here's the truth. Easy has never built a man. Think about it. Can you name one meaningful accomplishment in your life that came without sweat, sacrifice, or the struggle? Those stories don't exist. I mean, look at the greatest success stories of all time. What makes victory so sweet is the process that came before it. The failure, the adversity, the nights you wanted to quit, the days you felt unseen, the small wins that kept you moving, the people who pushed you to keep going. The process is where real growth happens. But the destination, that's just icing on the cake. When I look back on my college baseball days, the first memories that surface are not the wins or the losses. It's the early morning lifts, the late nights in the cages, the road trips, the hotter practices under the sun, the studying after practice when my body was drained. Those moments were not glamorous, but they shaped me. They built me. They made the victories worth it and allowed me to walk off that campus a far stronger man than when I first arrived. Life is no different. The things that will truly shape us into the men that God has called us to be will rarely feel comfortable. In fact, Jesus told his disciples the opposite. In John 16:33, which is one of my favorite verses in the world, because it's so confronting, he says, in this world, you will face tribulation. Notice he did not say you might, he said you will. Challenge is not the exception. It's part of the design. But here's the good news. Jesus continues. He says, take heart, for I have overcome the world. Your struggles are not wasted. Your pain is not random. God's purpose outweighs your comfort, always. He's created you on purpose for a very specific purpose. This means every challenge you face today is not working against you. It's working for you. The hard workout, the rejection letter, the broken relationship, the uncertain season, they are molding you into the man God intended. If you choose to lean in instead of escape, if you choose purpose over comfort, you'll look back one day and realize those were the very moments God used to prepare you. The truth is, comfort will never grow you. It'll only keep you stuck. But purpose will stretch you. It'll break you and then rebuild you into something greater. So the question becomes, which one will you choose? Will you settle for a life that feels easy but empty, or will you step into the fire of challenge, knowing that God is refining you for something bigger than yourself? If you are serious about becoming a leader in your home, your career, your relationships, and your walk with Christ, then you can't avoid the hard things. You have to embrace them. Because on the other side of that suffering is strength. On the other side of obedience is blessing. And on the other side of surrender is victory. And one day, just like those long college baseball practices, you'll look back not with regret, but with gratitude, because it was the struggle that made the win worth it. Now, throughout this newsletter, I referenced a lot about my college baseball days, and there's a lot of struggle that went into that. It's so easy to kind of point to the adversity you go through as an athlete and how that shapes you for the life you ultimately want to live, which is so true. But as a little bit more of a practical example for a lot of people probably listening to this, an example that I can pull back to and I talk about all the time. You guys may have heard it before, but when it really led to the start of Take a Step. But when I was starting out in my career, I was making decisions that were solely based on a comfort mindset, on just trying to figure out what is going to make me the most comfortable, what is going to give me the most security, what do I feel like I'm doing, where do I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it led me to a life, and I'll explain in a second, but it led me into a life of absolutely zero purpose, no meaning behind what I was doing, and I felt like I was just drifting through life. And when it talks about um, a life where there's not a lot of effort, it feels easy, but there's not a lot of meaning. That's the life I was living when I was 22, 23, 24 years old. And let me tell you, while the paychecks may have looked great every other Friday, I was mentally just burnt out and unfulfilled with the life I was building. So I knew I had to do something different. And what that called for was stepping into something that was uncomfortable, because I was in my corporate life. 3 years in, I had worked two different corporate jobs. I had always said, hey, you know what? It's the company's fault. I'll find a better company and they'll solve all my problems. But I was making the same decisions. I was making the same decision from the mindset of like, what is going to give me the easiest path and give me the clearest growth trajectory, because that'll give me security, that'll give my family security, and it'll give me a path where that doesn't challenge me and doesn't stretch me. And I realized that like part of the way that God wired us was to handle the adversity and overcome the adversity and learn through our failures on what we did wrong so that we can figure out what to do right and continue to grow. And but what this kind of the point that this gets to is that the process is so much more important than the destination, because the process is where the real struggle is, but it's also where the real growth happens. And for those of you that are, entrepreneurs, that have been athletes, that are even parents, that have recently pursued a relationship with Christ for the first times, these are things that are pretty life altering situations to be in. And when you're in those, you realize that there's so much that you have to learn. There's so much that you have to do and learn through experience. And learning through experience is not easy. That's not the comfortable path. But if it's something that is serving purpose for your life and is allowing you to have an impact and add value, and it's really giving your life meaning, then you know that it's worth it. So I challenge you to figure out what is it that you think you can do to really add value to the world and to use the way that God has uniquely designed you to go out and make a difference and have a purpose. Then pursue that. Not saying it's going to be easy, but it'll be worth it. It'll be purpose driven, and it'll be fulfilling, and it will be worth it. So figure out what that is. Let's take a step. And here are 3 questions to help you generate those next steps. Where in your life right now are you choosing comfort over purpose? And what small step can you take today to shift that? Number 2, what's one past struggle that you can now see God use to strengthen you? And how can that perspective help you face your current challenges? Then number 3, if you fully believe that every difficulty was part of God's refining process, how would it change the way you approach the hard things in front of you today? Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a rating or a review on whichever platform you are listening. And always remember, guys, that no matter where you are on your growth journey, every mile begins with a step. We'll talk to you in the next episode.